Welcome everyone to the Fall Equinox Live with Nassim. This is an annual event that we do at every solstice and equinox. And it's an opportunity for us to open up the Resonance Academy virtual classroom to the general public, to our friends and fans, so that you get to have some updates of what we're happening with the Resonance Science Foundation and the Resonance Academy. We get to hear little updates from Nassim, and then we have about an hour and a half of questions and answers. So those of you that are joining us on the Zoom line, you get to actually set the current of our conversation today by the questions that you ask. And we're also broadcasting live not only on Zoom today and not only on Facebook Live, but we're also part of the World Peace broadcast that's now for the next 3 days. And so we'll hear a little bit more about that. My name is Teresa Collins, and I am the director of the Resonance Academy. And I'm really happy that you're here with us. You get a sense of what it's like to be inside the Academy when you can be on events like this with us. I wanted to have Adam Apollo, before we got started, join us for a moment and tell us about the World Peace broadcast that we have an opportunity to be a part of today. Adam Apollo is a faculty in the Resonance Academy, and he's also on the core team of Unify. So Adam, let me spotlight your video here. And I'll also pull up our slides so you can let people know a little bit more about the broadcast.
Thank you, Teresa. Such an honor to be with you all here again. I've missed you guys. It's beautiful, amazing academy, thriving and growing, people coming in from all over Albuquerque, Spain, Taos, France, Maryland, Romania, Las Vegas, Missouri, Seattle, Montana, Brazil. I love it. It's so beautiful. And that is just the energy right now that we're weaving as a collective, is this connection between all different people all over the world coming together to do great work together. And right now, this weekend, today, we're starting up this World Peace broadcast. And it's been going live since this morning. It's going to be going 24 hours a day for the next 3 days. And we have these major events converging at different spots on the planet, from New York City to San Francisco to London to in India in different spots, and Japan, in Australia. And people are coming together to celebrate, beginning with today, where we have what we call decentralized dance parties happening all over the world, where people are creating dance parties in the street to co-create, connect, and build a field of connection between them as they're out there in the world. And then tomorrow, for Saturday, September 22nd, all day we're focused on radical acts of compassion. What this means is, go get an old backpack of yours, or stop by a thrift store and grab one. Go to the grocery store, put some toiletries in there, put some good, food and some snacks and some really healthy things in there, protein bars, and go and find a homeless guy under a bridge and just give him the backpack. And take a picture of him and celebrate him and his life and where he's going in his life. Call up a friend you haven't talked to in 10 years. Get on the ground, go help people, go, volunteer some time at like a children's hospital, or at a homeless shelter, or at an elderly home, and just do radical acts of compassion, and do it with friends, and capture it and take pictures and celebrate with people the way that peace comes forward and really emerges in our hearts when we show up for people in that way. And when we actually give our gift of compassion to people to make change in the world. It looks like a couple of our homies here are joining us from the Unify team. I see them coming in. And we're so honored to have this academy be part of this broadcast. And Sunday, by the way, we're going to be synchronizing in global synchronized meditation, which is what Unify is very well known for. It's the process of actually dropping in together and connecting in a deeper way, to connect through the field and get engaged with everybody else on the planet. I used to call them global telepathic conjunctions. And meditation doesn't have to look like sitting still on the ground. It can be doing Qigong or Tai Chi or yoga, but expressing and connecting and focusing on what it takes to really make peace inside of ourselves as we cultivate inner peace to then develop the field of world peace all around us. It's perfect that this Resonance Academy would be coming into this broadcast because so many of our students, so many of us are really working on how we can make the earth a more peaceful place and be more sustainable in terms of our energy use. And a lot of that comes from the insights that come through unified physics. So for this next segment in the Unified broadcast, we're going to be diving into unified physics and Nassim's work. And it's such an honor to be here with you, Nassim, and to share all of the amazing work that you've been doing in the world to help people understand how deeply connected we are with the fabric of space-time. So thank you. And it's always an honor to work with you.
Oh, it's great to work with you. That was great. It's so inspiring. Thank you, Adam. That was wonderful. Mm-hmm. And we have some of the people from World Peace broadcast on. Are they going to go on next or should I go? What do you guys want to say something?
Hey Nassim, it's Adil here from the Unified crew. You go.
Hi Adil.
Hi you guys. We got like this. We've got an experiment going on over here. So nice to be with all of you. Oh my God.
It's great to see you.
I don't want to co-opt your broadcast. You guys are onto it. We're patching this Zoom live to I don't know however many people on Unify right now. So
awesome.
We're just experimenting
all
with
of your work, you guys. Thank you for everything you're doing. We're so grateful that we could join you today. So if you're joining here on Zoom, put your name in the chat. Tell us where you're calling from. If you're listening on Facebook Live, go ahead and write something in there. Put your comments and questions. If you're on the Zoom line, you can start to put questions for our Q&A with Nassim right in the little folder down at the bottom that says questions. And we brought on two of our faculty members, William Brown and Marshall Lefferts, who are going to pull your questions and be asking Nassim. So again, you get to guide the direction of our conversation today by the questions that you ask. I've also brought on Chris Almeida. Wanted to give you guys some updates from him and Art Crystal. And Chris, it's nice to see you today.
It's great to see you as well. It's a great pleasure to be here. Absolutely. So I guess I'll get right to the updates, but it is very exciting to be here with you all. Great to see Adam. It's been quite a while and always exciting to be on a live with Nassim, of course, and to see the rest of the faculty. And hello, Adil. It's been a while since we've seen each other. So you're looking great, brother. Really good to see you.
Thank you, man.
And thank you for putting up those events, Adele. It's making a big difference.
Yes.
Thank you for making it happen.
Oh man, it's not something we did alone. That's for sure. It's a whole divine orchestration that's happening that I feel honored to be part of in any way. And Nassim and crew, I'm so excited to have your work for the first time kind of really shared with this audience. We've kind of shared some videos and gave little snippets, but this is a rare opportunity, rare treat. We're so honored to be here. I'll shift this a little bit. It's a good lighting. Jesus, there you go.
Right on.
So it's similar to Unify. As many of you, I'm sure, know, ARC is part of the sisterhood, brotherhood, collective family of companies and technologies of Resonance Science Foundation and of Nassim Haramein as the founder of these organizations. And we've had an incredible year bringing this technology into manifest and to the marketplace. And it's been really, really exciting to start to finally now co-create in this sandbox in the way that we've wanted to and envisioned for such a long time. And that's really part of what we're announcing today, because we're able to support as part of this amazing journey, the second annual trip that the Resonance Science Foundation is doing, and this time going to Peru and Bolivia, we're able to support that effort and to be a part of that. We are a part of the featured technology that's a part of the trip. Everyone who comes does get an art crystal. Even if you came to Egypt, you get another one. So keep coming. You can collect them and certainly share them with your friends and family, which is great. But we want to give back as well in the way that we can. So we are having a promotion where between now and the 15th, anyone who purchases an art crystal through our site, we're going to enter them into a drawing to win in a fully expenses paid trip. That means the airfare, that means everything. You don't have to do anything except get on the plane and then go and enjoy with this incredible, amazing group of people the trip of a lifetime in Peru, exploring the technology, exploring the theoretical work, and just really rooting into the efforts of what we're doing with consciousness, with the art crystals being brought to all these sacred locations around the planet. So we're super excited to co-create and be a part of this as part of what we're doing on the ARC side. And on top of that, something that we've been doing for a while now is that, because we think it's really important for everyone who gets one of these crystals to really understand what this is. This is not a piece of jewelry, but this is a piece of very advanced technology that's rooted in incredible science, theory in manifest. That's what the art crystal is. And so everyone who purchases an art crystal gets a free year at the Resonance Science Foundation delegate course automatically. You don't have to do anything other than put in your code, show that you purchased the crystal, and go to the landing page and sign up. And you get an entire year where you get to come to these Live with Nassims, all the private ones. You get to enjoy the entire delegate course. Yes, I want you to skip straight to module 6 so you can read about the ARC, because I want you to understand what you have, because it's so powerful. But you get everything, the full theory, everything, all the faculty calls, everything that's included with the delegate course. And it's really, for us, we're trying to help create this community and build this community as the leading thought leaders in resonance science. We really want to broaden and be a part, one of the legs in the three-legged stool. So very exciting what's happening here.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate the partnership that we've created and being able to have the community have the education that they can. So Nassim, we're on the live broadcast. We got to be with the World Peace broadcast as well. We're going out to so many different people, and I know you probably have some opening words and things that you'd like to share, some updates before we go to question day for you.
Well, I just wanted to say, first of all, that those global events that are manufactured by different groups around the world, and certainly Unify being one of the most prominent one, they make a difference. People should know, like they do, and it's not like I feel they do. I do feel they do. I noticed that, you know, my lab staff and, you know, all the people that do research with me and all this, whenever there's one of those world meditation, it seems the day goes so much smoother and everything is so easier. But beyond that is that what I find is, you know, is that there's data that supports it, meaning there's data coming from kind of a strange source, a non-expected source, and many people probably knows about this, but I'm going to mention it anyway. And that is that random generators around the world that are linked together in a network that are fed back to, I think it used to be Princeton. Now I think it's Stanford. It was a little too weird and esoteric for Princeton, so he went to the West Coast. So, you know, it turns out that these random generators are very precisely built to produce random outputs, stochastic, completely random outputs, or, you know, in those instances, tend towards organization, tend towards coherency, tend towards a coordination of numerical output with non-trivial statistical analysis that show that, like, somehow these random generators didn't get the memo that they're supposed to stay random, and they start creating coherency between, you know, nodes around the world. And, you know, and that's significant because, yeah, we're influencing the world. Yeah, we're influencing the morphogenetic field. But when you actually see data from computers being affected from it, you know that the effect is non-trivial. It can't be, let's just put it this way, it can't be a low energy effect. It can't be, it's not so subtle. Like, people talk about subtle energy all the time and how we do this to, like, you know, affect or connect with the subtle energy. Let's just say that this subtle energy is actually not so subtle at all, because if it's influencing microchips, oscillators that are oscillating at very high frequency inside a machine network, a network of machines around the world. So it's not like even a localized effect, because you can say, well, there's enough meditators around the machine, right? That's not the case. The meditators are all around the world in all kinds of locations. The machines may be nowhere close to even one of the meditators. So the effect is non-local, and it's strong enough that it's influencing an oscillating waver, right? Like a little crystal oscillator inside a machine, you know, inside many machines that are, in some cases, could be hundreds of miles from any of the meditator nodes, if you want to think of the meditators as a separate network from the computer network. So I just wanted to mention that like, this is non-trivial, and it's cited commonly as like, oh, that's kind of a cool thing, but it's more than just kind of a cool thing. It's like a really deep, meaningful thing. So it's interesting in physics, because then you can start to think about what are the mechanisms that makes that possible. But it's really interesting for everybody to know as well that, like, well, you know, the time I spend doing this, it really matters. It really does something. It's not just like, it's kind of a cool thing to do and I do it because my friend does it, but actually it's important. So having said that, you know, thank you everybody for putting your effort in and making, you know, my random way of doing my day a little bit more coherent and you know, and improving the state of coherency for humanity. And that leads into, you know, world peace. And so let's unpack world peace a little bit. You know, like well, I just want to start by saying, let's take a different optic on this, because I've been thinking about world peace for a long time myself, and I'm sure you have too. And I kind of like broke the box of thinking about world peace as, you know, humans being peaceful. And I realized, wait a minute, what am I talking about? the world is at peace, right? Like only the humans are having a little bit of an issue, but the world is at peace. The universe is at peace. It's doing a really good job. It's very harmonious. It does like amazing codependency, interaction, relationship. Like it does it like so good, so amazingly coherent and, you know, synchronized and so resilient, right? Resilient enough that you can eliminate a good portion of the species as we are doing, you know, remarkably, like thousands of species a year are becoming extinct, right? And it's still running. Like we can throw massive amount of carbons into its atmosphere. We, you know, like, and it's still doing its thing. It's resilient. Like there's no tomorrow. And so let's just say that world peace is actually a given. You know, which is like when I used to talk about world peace when I was younger, commonly what I would be told is like, it's never gonna happen. It's not in the nature of things. And it's like, no, world peace is the fundamental state, right? It's in the natural state for things to be in equilibrium, for things to be coherent, for things to thrive instead of self-destruct, right? It's in a natural state in peace. We're kind of disturbing this because of various reasons, but from there, when I realized this, that like we had the concept a little bit reversed from where it should be, I started to think, well, where is world peace within me? Like, so am I in peace as a natural state? Like, is my fundamental state a state of peace? And I realized absolutely, right? Because I mean, think of the 100 trillion cells that makes up your body, the 1,000 billion chemical change that happen every second, the you know, the body weight. I burn my body weight in ATP recycling, just sitting on the chair. If I don't do anything, I just sit on the chair and try to do the minimal all day, like just do nothing, I'm gonna burn approximately my body weight in ATP. If I go and run a marathon, then I'm gonna burn about a ton. Okay, I'm gonna recycle about a ton of ATP during that run, right? When I run that marathon. Like, holy macaroni, right? I mean, like, this is what's happening every second in my body. Like there's about 1 million cell division a second, right? And I'm like pixels constantly, like I'm shedding pixels and making new ones faster than I'm shedding it so that I can stay me, right? Like this is all running in perfect harmony, well, in generally perfect harmony, hopefully, for almost 100 years. It's like, it's in peace. It's in world peace. It's experiencing world peace at that scale, right? And you know, each atom is made of 100 trillion atoms. So like, there's another scale of world peace there, you know, like the coordination and transformation of like every chemical in my body and all the things that, I mean, just remarkable, right? It's just remarkable every moment that you're alive that this thing continues to do its thing. And I assure you that if it was at war, and if it was in competitive mode, and if it was, you know, arguing about it, and if it was having all these issues, it would not function. It would break down very quickly. There would be some serious problem. Your arm would go to war with your other arm, you know, and vacate your body. I mean, like, things would fall apart very quickly. So why is the human race not kind of falling in line with that fundamental base, which is already there, right? When people told me that world peace could not be achieved, which doesn't mean no conflict, it's just a way of dealing with conflict. When I was told that, it was like people telling me that over unity, or that perpetual motion could not exist. And it's the same reaction I had in both cases. That's fundamentally incorrect, right? Fundamentally incorrect. Listen, you guys out there, the physicists, if you don't get this, go back to school. Well, actually, no, because they'll continue to tell you crap. But actually, just take a moment to think about it. We've never seen the decay of one proton since the beginning of time, since as far as we can see, back towards the Big Bang. We haven't seen one proton decay. We haven't seen one of those particles just disappear. In fact, our laws of conservation tells us that energy cannot just vanish, can only change state. So if it can only change state, then it can only continue to produce work, right? Energy is work, right? And so nothing has ever slowed down. The universe is accelerating. I mean, like, the idea that there is no perpetual motion violates the very observation of our reality, right? So yeah, you're incapable of making a device that seemed to not, you know, be affected by the entropic function of our reality, but that doesn't mean that because you're incapable of doing it, right? That you're incapable of doing it, that's the fundamental way the universe is. That over unity is not possible, that continuous motion doesn't occur, because the universe is not stopping anytime soon, right? Not anytime soon. Not one proton. Not like, they're pretty small, and there's a lot of them. 10 to the 80th in the universe. That's a lot of, you know, zeros after the one. That's a lot of protons. Not one of them has even been seen to, like, slow down any way, shape, or form, right? So the same for world peace. It's not because the human race so far has been incapable of obtaining it, that it's not a fundamental state of the universe. It really isn't. It is. It's a fundamental state of your consciousness and your existence, whether you like it or not. Because if you didn't have world peace as a fundamental, coherent network of your existence, you would fall apart very quickly. You know, there's 100 billion, 1,000 billion chemical change every second. So you can, if these got confused for a few seconds and did the wrong thing, it wouldn't take long that like things would start falling apart very quickly, and you'd have an extremely bad day.
It would be really messy, wouldn't it?
It would be very messy very quickly. You would start looking like a puddle of mush on the ground, right? And so it's like, this is so please. So this is what I'm saying. It's like, please remember, world peace is inherent to creation, right? So how do we align with that? How do we resonate with that? How do we flow with the natural, collaborative relationship of nature, right? Where nature is not this thing at war with each other, but nature is this amazing resonance, fundamental resonance relationship in which all things is codependent on others and understands these principles. That when you put things out of balance, you're actually affecting your own capacity to survive the events that you are engendering, right? Okay, so now like, and when you look, although nature is very resilient, it's running on this incredibly fine balance state, and we are upsetting this balance, and it's okay. I mean, it's okay. Like, think of it as nature having this resilience because it's kind of nurturing this kind of like black sheep child of it, right? The human, trying to get the human, like, slowly but surely to mature a little bit and kind of start playing nice with everybody, right? And so this amazing possibility has been present all along, because part of understanding these principles, part of understanding that there is this fundamental network of collaborative efforts in nature that produce the complexity of the natural world, because that shit doesn't just happen by miracle, right? Like, it didn't, like, in the equation of nature, there's no place in the equation at one point it says, and then there was a miracle, right? Like, it doesn't, and the Big Bang Theory, like, that's as bad as it gets as well, like, because it didn't just start with a miracle, right? And so this is where, so in the equation, the reason the thing works is because there's feedback, is because there's collaborative relationship, codependent relationship that are well understood in the system. I'm saying, and in the universal system, it functions in collaboration and support and co-support of each other. And when you understand that, then it's like, it's pretty straightforward, you know? Like, we're all on the same planet. And by the way, for everybody out there, that planet is spherical. And we are all, you know, like together on this kind of like spaceship in space that is flying through space at like thousands of miles per second. Like, it's like crazy dynamics that like we are alive on this little ball flying through space like a bat out of hell, and it's not going in circle, you know, as well. It's moving through space. It's following the sun through the galaxy. It's not going in circles, right? It's making spirals. It's going through space, and like we're flying towards this amazing destiny with our future. And what is that future? Is it a future where we have created so much, you know, conflict, so much dissonance, so much chaotic function in our environment that our environment collapse? I mean, this is the 11th and 0.9th hour. Like, you know, this is where we turn it around or we forget it. And can we turn it around? Well, maybe. Maybe because of all of you out there participating in this. If we can influence computers, what about influencing our leaders, influencing our world, influencing, you know, our children, influencing all of the living beings, all of the living things to bring it together? There's amazing technology that's coming to help us with this. Amazing technology. I'm privy to some of these technological things. I build them in my lab, and I'm privy to others that are built in other labs. And we need your help out there. We need your help to influence the field enough that these things will emerge. Because the technical aspects of it, the complexity aspects of it, the theoretical aspects of it, they're worked out. We have these things. They run. They do their thing. They produce energy continuously without input power. They create gravitational lift. They create gravitational control. They do all kinds of amazing things. But the world that's in competition with each other is not allowing for the world that is in collaboration with each other to emerge currently. So we have to be strong. We have to be stronger in our cohesion than the other guys are strong in their chaos. Our harmonic frequency has to overcome the disharmonic structure of our culture. And that starts with every one of us producing as much harmonic oscillation in our day as we can every day. I'm getting better at it. It's taken me a long time. In my older age, I'm finally mellowing down. Not too mellow, as you can see. But it makes a big difference to start, from me anyway, to start with the fundamental understanding that we're already at, the universe is at peace, and we just have to align with those fundamental natural mechanics of creation.
Beautifully said. That was great. You should see the chat has been blowing up. Everybody's been having so much fun listening to you, Nassim. Also have, you cannot,
I was on the rant.
You cannot believe how many questions we have for you today.
Yes.
And people are ready for some good science. And because we have lots of questions, let's see if we can keep the answers relatively short. I know that's always hard. And so we can get to as many as we can. And we have about an hour and 15 minutes, which isn't long for you. So I'm going to start. I'm going to bring on Marshall Lefferts first. And Adam, if you see a question you like to, I can kind of rotate between the three of you choosing questions. Marshall looks like he's in some kind of space vehicle ready to take today.
Indeed, true. It's a resonance. That's a resonance technology right behind me.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's a beautiful gong.
Oh, you want to hit it?
Yes. Okay.
There you go. Here it goes. World peace.
Nice.
This one is, it's so deep. I don't know if you can hear it, but boy, you can feel it. It's incredible.
So Marshall's one of our faculty for the Resonance Academy. He's also the president of the board of the Resonance Science Foundation, and he comes on for our regular Live with Nassim calls every month. If you're in the academy, you get to hang out like this very often. So thanks for joining us, Marshall. And what's the first question you're going to bring up here?
Well, the first question is the first question. You know, it's always good to start there. And yeah, Nassim, we'll try to keep, we have, I think now 42 questions that have come in here. Unfortunately, everybody, we won't get to all of them, but we'll get to as many as we can. And this first one is asking if you, Nassim, would elaborate on the connection between the points of the delegate gatherings, the pyramids last year in Egypt, Peru this year, and the cosmic connections of this map. And this person has been following similar lines of the specific lines in these gatherings, and you know, around the places around the world that are kind of tied into this grid. So I wanted to just give a couple of minutes of your perspective on the choice of these locations and how it relates to specific harmonic points on the Earth.
Right. Well, you know, there's okay, it was early on in satellite industry that Russian satellite were mapping the magnetic field of the Earth and realized that the magnetic field of the Earth is not smooth, but it has kind of ropey structures in it, like magnetic rope. And they noticed, you know, partially they could follow where the ropes were going, and they started to find nodes where the ropes would intersect, and then they started finding other nodes, and they didn't have the full map, but eventually they were able to make them, like, figure out what the map looked like, and realize that the map was kind of like a dodecahedron structure in the magnetic field of the Earth, around the Earth. And they noticed that on the nodal points, where the ropes intersect on the geometry, there was commonly temples or crystal formations, that is like deep crystal veins, large crystal veins in these regions. And so they, you know, from this, you can actually extrapolate as well higher complexity of the geometry on the surface and realize some of the nodes around the world, you know, and how that whole thing kind of like creates these ley lines relationship, these connections, this network, electromagnetic and magnetic network of the planet. And some of these nodes are have higher energy levels than others. And, you know, certainly, you know, of course, you know, the Egyptian region is one of the largest nodes on there. And because geomagnetically as well, it's position relative to the continents and so on. And so it was my first choice for the first delegate gathering and for the first activation of the art crystals, coherent structure. You know, when we come together and we put the 64 tetrahedron grid together in terms of art crystal, we kind of open an aperture. And then this opening of the aperture that we did in Egypt, specifically on the night of October 5th in Giza, when we spent that harvest moon in the 3 pyramids. We had the 3 pyramids overnight, and we assembled the crystal and opened the aperture. This was actually recorded. The result of this was actually recorded by the agency of a country that we will not name here, that sent an email to the Egyptians, you know, asking what was going on Giza, because they actually measured the electromagnetic pulse that we created there. And so the idea is to create these very specific events where we pulse this naturally occurring electromagnetic and magnetic flux of the planet itself. And we pulse it with very specific energy dynamics and very specific intention to create a higher level of coherency, higher level of awareness, and so on. And, you know, incidentally, a few weeks after we left Egypt, they announced that they had found a new chamber in the Grand Pyramid of Giza, and so on. There was a bunch of events that came along. But the next pulse is Peru, because of those nodal structure, and because the relationship between Egypt and Peru, between the two sites, is a relationship that's fractally reproduced between the pyramids in Egypt. That is the Orion constellation mapping on the structure of the planet. And so you have Egypt, Peru, and the third star, well, you know, I'm not going to say, but you guys will have to figure it out on the map, because that'll be where we go next year. And so this is really like what I'm following to like initiate these first, because what has happened throughout the years is that because of the decoherency, for instance, the pyramids in Egypt being mined to build Cairo. So like a whole layer of the casing stones of the pyramid was removed, and then there's this huge city that was built, you know, right beside the site, and all this stuff, and all the chaos there, and all the chaos around the world. The ley lines, the magnetic ropes are being pulled, you know, including by large experiments that I'm not gonna name, but that, you know, occurs in the region of Switzerland, and you know, where, you know, we create large electromagnetic fields, large magnetic fields, where we're pulling on the structure, and we are creating, you know, a tendency for the system to go out of phase. And so going to those sites, opening the aperture, and like creating the high energy electromagnetic frequency there, produce, restabilize the grid in its natural location, and reorganize the natural state of the planet so that it can sustain itself and actually open up to the next level of our evolution. So this is why I'm picking those places. That was not a short answer. I'll work on shorter answers.
Pretty good, pretty good.
All right, I'm going to bring William Brown in. He's going to have a question for you. We're kind of going back and forth. William is on our faculty. He just recently finished an elective course that we offered called Big Questions, Resolving the Hard Problems of Science, an amazing course. And William, it's great to have you on the call today. Thank you for coming. And what's the question you got to serve up for Nassim today?
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, it's certainly great to be on the call. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on this fall equinox. So I'm going to jump into one that is a little bit more into the science. It's always so challenging to pick from all these amazing and insightful questions, but this is a pretty interesting one. So we know from your quantum gravitational solution that shows the source of matter, the source of energy and charge, that is generated via essentially Planck scale photons, the Planck spherical unit, which is an electromagnetic oscillator. So Paul Seletsky is asking, he says, I've read several articles of scientists discovering where captured light is producing matter, such as electrons and positrons. Mm. Some have mentioned that the torus is a fundamental shape in which the photons are captured to manifest matter. Do you see a geometric structure of how the photons are captured inside the torus? And are the photons captured actually within it or on the surface in the vortex lines that spiral around, probably from the equator to the poles? Geometry of the photons comprising matter.
Oh, easy question. Start easy on me. Yeah.
Count on William to pick the most.
Yeah, exactly.
And Paul to ask it too. Paul's always asking these questions on the live with the sim call. We're gonna pull Paul on here.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. I mean, there's a lot of information. But first of all, it's important to remember that these photons are not just sitting there stable, but they are in continuous motion. That is, they're captured not because they are able to stop photons from moving. They're captured because the photons are captured into a feedback structure, and a feedback structure will be a torus. And so the toroidal dynamic that the photons are going through, eventually, if you get it approximately right, will, you know, create enough coherency between all of the photons that you will get an electron, or you will get, you know, if you're capturing enough Planck oscillators into a torus shape, you'll get a proton. So you'll actually, but that's a lot of little Plancks. I mean, it's I think 10 to the 40th Plancks on the surface and 10 to the 60th on the inside. So, you know, that's a lot of Plancks. And so approximately 10 to the 60th Plancks have to be captured. And that, you know, but if you can do that, and this is why in laboratory I've been working at coupling to the vacuum structure, you can start creating matter, literally, right out of the structure of space. You can, and so it's starting to be done. It's starting to be done in laboratory, not by my labs currently, not only by my labs, but by others. And so, you know, we've been able to, you know, see that like matter is actually a dynamic of the field, of the electromagnetic field itself. Like, so that matter and the electromagnetic field and gravity are not all separate things. They're just one thing. And when that one thing is in a dynamics in which there's high level of coherency, it is what we call creation, matter, or matter creation. Just like world peace would be like the humans becoming coherent enough that they create, you know, a little more instead of destroy, you know, so much, right? So it really has to do from like this idea that we labeled things, and then we associate those labels with various values, and then we assume that these values are separate from each other. And we cease to look at the relationship between them. And we do that in science all the time, even between sciences. So for instance, we don't think as biology and physics being the same science, which is completely insane. Like, of course, it's the same science. All biology is made out of atoms, and, you know, atoms make up biology. Like, it's all the same thing at different scales, right? Like, it cannot, do you think that the universe is thinking, oh, now I'm doing biology. Oh, now I'm doing physics. It's not, it doesn't have those boxes. It doesn't have those names on it. It's all what chemistry, biology, physics, consciousness. So it's all the same dynamics. And those dynamics are feedback dynamics of the information structure of space itself. And that's what we're starting to discover. And so I'm not sure I'm answering the question because it's a complex question. If we could get Paul on here, it would help, because I'm not sure what exactly he means or what exactly. Oh, there's Paul.
Hi.
Hi, Paul.
How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I guess I could kind of describe that I do a lot of the research there on the internet, and then I see like there's a lot of toruses that show up, and I see these spiral lines that go around the torus.
Yeah. And
that, you know, to me is like, it's like, that's an indication of how the photons are actually, you know, traversing around the torus as it's, you know, captured, or it's kind of caught in this racetrack. in a toroidal racetrack.
Right. But you got to remember the torus is special in the sense that, I mean, it's ubiquitous to everything, but it's an amazing thing because it has a toroidal rotation. That is, it has a bulk rotation that is an angular momentum along the equator, but it has a poloidal rotation as well along the pole. So the combination of that, right? It's like a B field, right? A combination of that is going to be a spiral rotation that's going through the singularity, through the middle and back out, and through the middle and back out. And because there is Coriolis forces when you have spin, then you're going to have a reverse angular momentum, right? You're going to get spin counterspin. So now you're going to have a splitting of the torus. So now you get an equatorial ring, right? Where the polarities are interacting, the rotations are interacting. And so you imagine a rotation at the equator that's going this way, and a rotation at the equator that's going this way from the two double torus, right? So now what you're going to get a rotation this way along the equator, like spiral arms, right? Like vorticity in the plasma of the sun that creates sunspots, right? Like layers that you see on the sun plasma, or on Jupiter and Saturn, layers are gonna be created by these dynamics. So it's more complex than a single torus. The single torus is like a idealization, simplification of the dynamics, but it's along the same lines. So you can imagine, for instance, like we could make significant errors. Oh, I'm supposed to keep my answer short. Just one last thing. You can imagine we could make significant errors in our interpretation, for instance, of redshift for the expansion of the universe, because we assume that the universe is expanding in some kind of linear bubble, right? But in fact, it's much more likely that the universe is spinning and that it's toroidal. Some of the background radiation maps show that the universe is probably toroidal, and that actually when we see like quasars or redshift objects moving away, it might be because they're accelerating in the toroid away from us, but not necessarily linearly expanding. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there could be some significant errors in our assumptions there, right?
Thank you, Paul. Thank you always for your awesome questions.
Thank you. Yes.
Paul, our regular delegates, and he's always asking really tough questions. This is great. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Hey, Adam, is there a question in there that you kind of find interesting that you'd like to bring into the game? Adam's also, as I said earlier on the call, he's one of our faculty. He's going to actually be having a course coming up too, which we're looking forward to, and part of the unified team. Thanks, Adam, for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. And look forward to dropping more into the quantum geometry space with you guys in my course coming up. I love talking about just the dynamics of the energy itself, Nassim, and it was beautiful hearing you describe the layering sort of caking process as the sub-vortices ripple off that central scalar channel. It's just beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll give you a way more simple one. One that may be fun and interesting and kind of harken back to some of your early work, because it was posted actually multiple times. Somebody saw it, reposted it again a couple times in this Q&A. So I think it's a big question people have. Tyler Tarnowski is one of the individuals here asking, how does sound frequency, vibration, sound frequency and vibration equate into the unified field theory. And specifically, he's wondering about certain sort of specific frequencies that we hear a lot about, the 432 hertz, 538 hertz. Will you share a little bit more about how these frequencies relate to some of the unified field work you've been doing?
Well, you know, this is like something that Marshall would probably be better at answering, because he's been studying that so much, being a musician, actually finishing an amazing book that we worked on till 1 a.m. last night.
Nice.
You know, like it's a brick, but it's so awesome. I mean, I can't wait. Yeah, like, it's an amazing book. But you know, it really is. Well, you know, I tend to think of it as a fundamental hum of creation. You know, like if you imagine the Planck field, you know, I was thinking, this is early, you know, early on, like you were saying, I was in the middle of, I told this story before, but I'll just do it shortly. But I was in the middle of a rock climb. Actually, it was a couloir ice climb. It's a fairly dangerous couloir. It's about 5,000 feet vertical, and it's, you know, it's laid. It's a steep couloir, but it has these walls, very, very steep walls, rock walls on either side, and a very, very dangerous bergschrund at the bottom, meaning like it's got this huge crevasse at the bottom that separates it from the main glacier. So if you lose it, you know, you're done. Anyway, so and I was
basically a chimney of rock and ice. That's the couloir.
Right, yeah.
A crevasse crack into the ice that you don't know where the bottom is.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And you're having the best time of your life. And you know, and I'm soloing, so there's no second air. And you know, I've got a telescope on my back, and you know, I'm getting to the top of this mountain. I'm on my way to go and watch the Levy comet hit Jupiter. And you know, I started late because of all the equipment. And what happens in ice climbing in the summer is when you start late, you get in trouble, because as the afternoon or late morning sun hits the rock, it melts the ice that holds some of the rocks together, and it starts to avalanche on you. And basically you get these rocks flying by, and they sound like jets going by when they go by, because it's like they're flying, you know, and they're like, whoo, whoo, you know. And so I was going up, and I'm like, wow, I gotta get out of here. And it's coming down. And as I'm thinking that, I'm thinking, wow, you know, we always think of mountains as these solid things that are, you know, immutable, like but they're really alive. They're continuously, you know, shedding layers. The glaciers are continuously moving, cutting into it. The rivers are cutting into it. It's constantly moving. I start to think about the fundamental oscillation of the planet itself as the mountains get eroded and they fill up the valleys, and new mountains are being made over very long periods of time, being the fundamental resonance frequency of the crust of the earth. And then I start to think about all the other things on the earth that, you know, like all the birds singing. You know, like if I could isolate of all the noise on the surface, and I just took out just the birds singing all around the world, right? Wow, that would be like, whoa, this like fundamental tone, like, you know, something beautiful. And then like all the leaves in the trees, you know, and then you know, and of course I thought of all the orgasms of everybody that's having an orgasm and everything, and like all this stuff. And then I was thinking, you know, and so then I was thinking about this fundamental hum of the Planck field, meaning like if I went through all the frequencies, right, I could like keep going and keep going and keep going, and eventually I'd get to the fundamental frequency of the fundamental pixel of space-time, like resonating, and pulsing everything into existence, pulsing everything into life, right? As it oscillates, as it resonates through. And like, that's not far from like string theory, thinking that like the universe is oscillating strings, like this kind of fundamental principle. And then, and then all the overtones and undertones of this fundamental, right? And then, the harmonics of it, right? Defining boundary conditions, right? And so then it was like, I'm like, I like the music of the spheres, right? Like Pythagoreans, they had it, like they had the right concept, and then of course I thought of all this while I'm climbing, trying to save my life from this cold. I was thinking of like this oscillator that I could build in a laboratory to kind of match, like produce a resonance match to that fundamental field. And what would be the frequencies, right? What would be the intervals? Like, how would it, and what, this is like 25 years later, finally, we're starting to work out the math of like where, like if I go, of course, the oscillating rate at the Planck scale is like way above audio, right? It's like, wow, wee, like really. Right? But, because I mean, it's oscillating at significant, speed of light, right? But when you step it down, then you like find the octaves. When it gets in the audio, where is the audio? Like if I can nail, right, the audio, like boundary condition, right, where the harmonics would be, then I can match to the fundamental.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and that's what we're discovering, is that it's not quite, we were close, but we weren't quite on it. And musicians and researchers and, more and more people are starting to like, you realize, wait, we don't have to tune continuously to this other, scale that may not be as harmonious with the natural order as we thought, right? And so, this is the discussion that's going on right now. The mathematics certainly is starting to come in place, right? But I just give you the conceptual notion of how audio relates to unified physics. This is literally what the subject of Marshall's book is on, is the relationship of the musical scale, the unified field, and geometry. Right, Marshall?
That is correct. Yes. Yeah. The book is called Cosmometry, and it's really fundamentally about the cosmic geometry, the unified physics model that Nassim has developed, and the system of music, and how they're really all just one thing. And as you just described, Nassim, and the beauty is that it's very evident when you actually just put these pieces together at the very basic fundamental level. The matchup is, it's undeniable. It's obvious.
Yeah, and, it's so amazing. That's why,
Yeah, and it's that way not because it was an interesting, cool thing to do and fun to kind of put these pieces together, but it's actually because it makes, as you just described, it makes sense that, given that the universe is one unified field of vibratory conditions, and that there are these vibratory conditions create these boundaries that become the different levels of perception, the full range beyond even our visible and auditory perception. These are all different boundaries, frequency-based boundaries. And it's all an interaction of these frequencies in the electromagnetic realm, creating one universal holographic field. And in the acoustic realm, creating what I call a holosonic field, which is also the acoustic element or aspect I feel really is what creates form. And therefore you get the geometric relationships. It's the interaction of both the acoustic and electromagnetic that create these relationships, these geometries, the tensegrity. And all of it is informed by the harmonic relationships, the resonance aspect. That's why we are called the Resonance Science Foundation, because fundamentally this harmonic structure, the nature of the resonance, that is what defines anything and everything coming into form, coming into harmonious relationship throughout the universe. The spacing of planets around stars and the star systems and the galaxies and their formation are all based on the same fundamental set of harmonics and ratios. So yes, that's absolutely really the foundation of the unified physics model in large part, as you just described.
Yeah. And I was amazed when we were looking at your book yesterday, some of these relationships so clearly defined, harmonic relationship, that it's undeniable, clear as day. These are very fundamental to the creative structure of the universe and ourselves, our body, our consciousness, everything we are, everything we see is literally the music of the sphere. The whole thing is singing. The whole thing is singing and dancing.
The universe, the one song,
Right.
The universe. It's that simple.
Exactly.
It's like staring us in the face all the time. Oh,
Yeah.
The universe.
Right. Quite diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one
Quite
song.
a rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
So Marshall's book's going to be out soon. Somebody asked Marshall if you were going to do a course, and I said after the book was published, you would definitely be doing a course.
Absolutely.
Site that can be explored. It's pretty exciting. The thing is so thick, man.
It's a big. Oh, I have it here. I can show you. Well,
all right. How about the next question for Nassim? What do you have for him?
Well, I'll just. There's a few questions, so I'll just kind of put them all together into one whole here, which is having to do with fundamentally what's going on with the sun. There's information from SOHO observations of unique different kinds of activities happening right now. Somebody was asking a question that's really fundamental to the unified physics model: is there a black hole hiding at the center of the sun and other stars? And then another person was inquiring about the recent activity with solar observatories around the world being shut down. So combination of a few things around what's happening with the sun.
Yeah, all these things go together.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Start with the physics. The black hole at the center.
I like the idea of the black hole, hiding inside the sun. Is there a black hole hiding inside the sun? I'm just going to say it straight up. It's not really hiding very well inside stars. It's kind of obvious that it's there, but it's definitely hiding from the human scientific consciousness currently. Remarkably, when a star explodes, they find a black hole there where the star used to be, and they think it was just created, miraculous. That's where the miracle happens in the equation, right? Because it doesn't add up. They say the star created the black hole. There's no math that supports that. I'm sorry, guys. It just doesn't happen that way. the black hole was always there. The star exploded because the black hole produced pressure inside the orbosphere because of the carbon cycle. That's the correct part they got. That is, plasma eventually separates into heavier and lighter, atoms and produce shells, and the shells can cool off enough that they become solid enough that the pressure will build on the inside if you've got a black hole in there, and eventually blow the shells, and then the black hole becomes exposed, and that's when you see the black hole. It's not because it was created. The black hole created the star in the first place, just like the black hole created the galaxies in the first place. I predicted that long before they found black holes at the center of all galaxies, that they would find black holes at the center of all galaxies, and that they would eventually find that the black holes were there prior to the galactic formation, which they found at this point. That is, they can see that black holes are there first, and then galaxies emerge. So, this is very, okay, so guess what? There's not only black holes at the center of stars, there's black holes at the center of every atom. We call them protons. And in order for a gravitational effect to occur, it's because there's black hole dynamics in that region of space. That is, space-time is spinning in such a way that it's producing toroidal dynamics in the Planck field that produce curvature in space-time. Mass, energy, matter, gravity, electromagnetic fields is all one thing. The field orbiting. And so it's different aspect of what happens when the field orbit. Guess what? When the field orbit, think of water going down the drain in your tub. When the field orbit, the water goes down the surface curve. We call that curvature. A rubber ducky will appear to be attracted to the drain in your tub, right? Because the surface of the water is curved. It's not because the surface is curved that the rubber ducky is going towards the pipe or the drain of your tub. It's because the water is orbiting. And guess what? When the water is orbiting, when the Planck field is orbiting, there's particles of water that are going out, and there's particles of water that are going in, right? The ones that are going in, we call them gravitation, and when the ones that are going out, we call them electromagnetic field. And so this is all, so of course, the dynamic of black holes, are at the source of creation. Actually, there's one of the layman, scientific journal, one of the largest scientific journal in Europe that just published a cover. I was very proud of them. Go French! The French are teaching my physics in some public high schools finally, and the title is like black holes make up everything, in like kind of translation. I'm paraphrasing, and so basically, yes, we are seeing agencies, we'll just call them agencies, are going around the world right now shutting down solar telescopes, okay, for unknown reasons. Well, no, the reasons are known, but not so publicized. That's what they're trying to avoid. Literally, the Dawn telescope in New Mexico, you're talking like a whole village of scientists that lives at the base of the telescope. The whole science staff, all staff were evacuated. The agency walked in. Everybody was taken out. They were in the poles within minutes, disconnecting their network from the grid. Black Hawk helicopters. The local police, the local chief couldn't get an answer from anybody, like what's going on. And this happened and many others. And So why don't they want us to look at the sun? Maybe a deeper question would be, why is the Vatican financing so many of the solar telescope and solar probes and so on, right? Why is the Vatican so interested in the sun? Maybe because they have ancient texts that tell them something about the sun. And so if you're interested, you can put my name in Google, actually in YouTube, and put Nassim Haramein, History Channel, William Shatner maybe, and you'll see me on the History Channel in 2011, I believe, talking about the sun being a stargate, the conclusion of the physics I wrote, predicting that black holes are hubs that connects wormholes. Now, since then, some of the greatest physicists on the planet have come to this conclusion. If you're interested, look up ER equals EPR. And you know that, black holes and wormholes, both at the cosmological level and at the quantum level, this is why particles are entangled, because they connected through wormholes and they're mini black holes. That, the whole thing makes up a really high frequency, oscillator, all connected through information network, through wormhole information network. And basically, this leads clearly to well, if you want to go across the universe and not have to go there linearly, which, at the speed of light would take you billions of years, you can get into the wormhole network and go there instantaneously. So I came to this conclusion some 20 years ago, and I realized, wait a minute, that means that our local star, the sun, would have a black hole in the middle. So this is a black hole. And if a scientist tells you that's not the case because it doesn't have an 18-kilometer radius, well, because in order for it to be a black hole, it would have to be much denser. You can explain to them, because that didn't seem to have occurred to them, that, yeah, that's true if all of the sun was a black hole, but we're not saying all of the sun is a black hole. We're saying there's a black hole in the middle. That is, part of the sun is collapsed into a black hole in the middle. So it has that correct density for the amount of matter that's collapsed into it. And the orgosphere around that black hole is the surface of the sun that we see. So it has thickness, quite a bit thick, and then inside is a black hole. And so it occurred to me that since there's sunspot, because the black hole in the middle is making vortices, and these vortices is entraining the plasma on the orgosphere to get sucked into the black hole. So there's actually black spots where, where microwaves are being emitted, which is exactly what you see when you see matter falling into black holes. And, and in these spots, it was like some of these spots are 13 times the size of the Earth. So I'm thinking, wow, you could literally fly a ship into these wormhole sunspots, enter the grid, and go across the galaxy or go across the universe. So I started to think, maybe the sun is a gateway and into the universal network. And then that was supported by many ancient civilizations that talk about the sun as a gateway. And then I start to get, the feed from the SOHO observatories, the probes that, continuously observe the sun. And at the time, it was not censored, meaning it wasn't edited as much as it is today. So, you could get the straight feed from the probe. And I started to see these objects that didn't look like natural objects. They were making 90-degree turns and all kinds of crazy stuff going into the sun. And they weren't really small things. They were huge things. And when they, like the size of planets that were going into the sun, And when they would go in the sun, there would be a huge sun flare that came out, and it would show up on the KP index and all this stuff. And so I started to monitor this closely. And this is some of the stuff I showed in the footage. Actually, the footage I showed on that History Channel episode was, from the early 2000s, I think. So it was long before. But, some of that, some of these objects were recorded by other people as well. It's been generally ignored. They just called them comets. In fact, I remember downloading the file, looking at the object, looking at the behavior of the object, clearly not comets, and then the file would disappear from the net when I would publicize it, and then it would reappear a few days later, and all of a sudden it had tails like comets. And it was like the original file didn't have a tail. Like, how did it get there? And so, I believe, and I haven't been able in my new location. I'm in the middle of actually purchasing solar telescopes, but so I'm gonna get data again, and I've got anyway. I'll show it anyway. I will be getting data myself, but it's really important people understand there may be a large contingency of, friendly neighbors on their way to come and say hi. That might be why some of our governments are talking about Space Force. They may be, some very interesting moments in our near future as a result of this. I mean, the next few years. So, there's definitely reasons why these solar telescopes around the world are being closed down.
Amazing. How about, let's see, next, William. Another tough question, I'm sure, from you. You always go for those.
Well, I think this one might be a little bit more easy approach. It's actually related to a lot of what you just described, particularly the ancient civilizations' perspective on the sun as a gateway. You even mentioned some of the ancient texts that may be in the possession of the Vatican and why they're interested in the sun and the plasma dynamics of the sun. So this is a question from Ajit Padmanabh. He asked, in one of your talks, you mentioned that plasma dominates the universe. Plasma can control gravity, and that this is the best way to reach space. Based on your research of ancient civilizations, have you been able to map this aspect to any of the ancient texts? For example, is void ether akasha an aspect of plasma, or anything else you might have come across that you believe relates to plasma or plasma dynamics?
Absolutely. Actually, I think it's described in many different ways in ancient texts, some of them being Vedic texts and Mali texts, Antiram being one of them, 13,000-year-old texts, and others in different cultures, the Mayan cultures, the Inca cultures, the Chinese, the Japanese. I mean, in most of these ancient civilizations, they describe space as being full and as being discrete. That is, it's not just full of energy, but that energy, that this energy is in packets or in structure. It's not just kind of chaotic or just undulating function, but that it is in terms of particles, that it's like particular energy in the space. very much describes it that way, and that sounds a lot like a plasma to me. And then they describe that it's, I mean, in other terms, they don't use the same term, but they describe it as a superfluid, that it has zero entropy. It's like completely, fluid, that it doesn't lose energy, that it's continuous. It describes it as a superconductor. It describes it as instantaneous across nodes, and so on. So it's very much describing nonlinear dynamics of plasma, particles interaction, particle to particle interaction, and all these things, in details. But you have to take each text and then compile them with the others to start to get a full picture. Otherwise, independently, you might get part of the picture, but it's actually when you put them all together that starts to, you start to get the amplitude of the whole puzzle and how it describes this fundamental field in terms of a superfluid plasma, really. I think that I know that in some of the text, it actually not only describes this fundamental dynamics, but it describes how to interact with it, how to build technology based on this information, like the nirvanas and so on, to create a coupling to this field, and to extract gravitational effects and energy and so on from it. Chi, prana, mana, like all these fundamental descriptions. And so I think it's very much, it's clearly defined. If you know what you're thinking of when you read those things, if you assume that it's just, fantasy and religious belief and all kinds of make up stories, then you're probably going to miss it.
And even if you didn't have the ancient texts, you could almost infer that these ancient civilizations had to have known about this physics, this level of reality. When you look at things like the megalithic buildings, the stone structures that are almost impossible to describe as being cut and moved by conventional means, they're almost direct evidence of some kind of form of gravitational control, perhaps. And it seems like you would have to have an understanding of the superfluid nature of the vacuum, the space, and certainly the plasma dynamics that couple to that.
Right, you would, and you might even think of the air plasma as something you could utilize in a very rudimentary way to couple to it, with the right frequency, from the right emission of the right frequency at the right time in the right context. You could maybe create levitation, it goes down the rabbit hole. And when you think about those things, and then you look at the historical record in some of these texts, like the Bible, talking about the ark and how the ark was used to, bring down Jericho or to levitate the priests, or, and all this stuff, or open the waters of the Jordan, or open the waters of the Red Sea, and so on. You start to go, oh, okay, because in many cases it's associated with sound frequency, interacting with the device to produce the effect, and so on. So yeah, there's a lot, like the disk of mu, and like how, that resonance frequency, and with the disk, like the fundamental, like the sun disk is described in other civilization and so on. You start to get the picture, you start putting it together, when you look at the sun disk on the top of the entrance of all the temples in Egypt, right? First of all, it's called a sun disk in modern era, but when you look at those carvings, it's not a disk, it's a sphere, right? Okay, so because it protrudes, on the carving, right? It's a sphere, it's clearly a sphere. And then the wings represent that the sphere can fly, right? So, it starts to make sense. You start to put the pieces together, because clearly, it wasn't, slaves pulling on vine ropes. Oh, the slaves have been upgraded now to farmers. I guess farmers, when they didn't have to farm, when on their off time from farming, were just pulling on 1,000-ton blocks, So.
All right. Yeah. I think we might have lost our world peace broadcast, Adam.
Yeah, I was trying to check in and see what time it was shifting back over, but it looks like the broadcast moved to hearglobal.org now at this point. So thank you all so much for participating in this, and Nassim for just going at some of the big, deep questions and providing just an inspiring stream to the whole global community that's watching that broadcast. It's really an honor to have you guys with us and doing that. Thank you so much for taking this time. And
Thank
then
you for inviting us.
Our 500 amazing, participants that have packed this session just inside the Zoom room. Like, save that chat. That's like a book right there.
No doubt.
Adam, is there one question you want to ask before I ask Nassim to do one of the requests people have been asking for here? And something.
All right, sure. Yeah, I'll just ask one off the top of my head. So now that you've solved for the electron with Amira, what's next, Nassim?
Well, actually, we just solved for the critical mass for the universe. So I think the next paper is going to be a cosmological paper.
Okay.
And so I'm pretty excited about it. It came out perfect, exactly right. The critical mass is the mass of the universe, including dark matter and dark energy, which is an aberration of modern cosmology.
Oh, good. Let's cover that one finally. Why don't we? I'm getting tired of having to explain to people that over and over again. So publish already.
Yes, it's on its way. And so we're excited because, it's just remarkable how well it came out. Publishing is the issue, though. As answered, is very difficult. Oh my God, like so many, even the electron paper. But we'll get through it, but it's, the truth will prevail. It's remarkable how well it come out. It keeps blowing my mind. I expected it to be a little bit off here and there, but it keeps coming out straight up. And so, we can eliminate the need for the dark matter and dark energy. It's clear that it's the dynamics is just basically the dynamics of space-time itself. Of course, if you take the mass of a galaxy and you assume that you can just calculate just the mass of the stuff you see.
By the stars, right.
By the stars. And ignore the field that makes that whole thing happen. Of course, you're gonna be missing 80% the mass, right? It would be like taking the mass of the milk in your coffee when you put it in after you spin the coffee, right? Then you
forget about the coffee.
Yeah, but you ignore the coffee cup. You ignore the coffee and the coffee cup. So so of course, you know, so by considering the vacuum structure, we get the right answer, of course, and but it just still amazes me every time how good it comes out. And so that's gonna be the next thing. So I'm excited about it.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Nassim, before we go to some closing comments, I know there's been a lot of people asking on the chat, can you give us just some guidance as to how we can tap into that inherent peace inside of us? And it might be nice with the beginning of this wave of 3 days that you just give us a little bit of guidance into that, and then we can go to our closing comments.
Okay.
All right.
That sounds good. So if everybody close their eyes, we're gonna take 3 breaths, breathing by the nose and exhaling by the mouth. And as we exhale, we exhale the tension of our body everywhere in our body, from the tip of our hands and toes to our skull and our neck. And now breathing through the nose, we follow one of the breath into our lungs. And through the blood barrier of our lungs, we get into the blood of our body. And as we follow the blood into the heart, aorta, into the ventriculus, we find the center position in between the ventriculus in our heart. In the middle of our body. And there we find stillness. In the center of the vortex, with a spin vortex above and a spin vortex below, coming from the spine, the kundalini rising into the heart, and from the crown coming down into the heart, meeting at singularity. There, in the center of your beingness, is stillness. There, in the middle of your beingness, is universal peace. Complete silence. There is your church. There is your retreat. There is your calm. And there, in that position in power, in that position where you are connected to the whole through singularity, through stillness, where the spin of the hurricane all around is strong and powerful. In that center, at the point of stillness, is the eye of the hurricane, the peace, the calm, the peace of humanity. And in that place, And from that place, you bring peace into the world. By your own self of universal peace. Aho.
Yeah. We can send a wave of this peace all across the planet to all of the people who are joining in this incredible celebration and really calling for peace inside of ourselves. Thank you so much, Nassim.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm gonna go around the circle so that all of our faculty can say some final words in you, but I just wanna start by, as the director of the Resonance Academy, I'm gonna put a special code in the chat today. I wanna invite you all, if you're not in the Academy, to come and join us. And this code that I just put in there, kind of to celebrate our partnership with Art Crystal. If you put in the word Art Crystal when you come to register at the Resonance Academy, it'll give you $100 off. So if you've been waiting to come in and you haven't been able to do that, please do it today. You get to come on calls like this, and you get to join an incredible community of people all around the world that are exploring these ideas and beginning to really embody this deeper alignment with this natural peace. That's what we're doing as a community. So I really wanted to offer that today. I wasn't planning on it, but I've just been so inspired by how much everyone is enjoying being on this call. And I want you to come and join our community, and let's keep going deeper, and let's really bring peace into the world together. So let's start with Marshall. Let's start with you.
Mm-hmm.
Any
Great.
final words today? Thank you so much for being on the call.
My pleasure, as always. Thank you, Nassim, for diving into the questions. Thank you, the 400 plus people that came on Zoom and however many on Facebook. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the Unified crew for streaming us out as well. It's been a great journey, and I really appreciate deeply the focus on bringing peace in to the world that is done through just our state of being, and being in a state of harmonious resonance inside of ourselves is that. And as Nassim said, that is the true nature of nature. It is, even though it's wild and chaotic out there, at times the whole fundamental field is in a state of balance, and that state of balance is the state of peace in the balance of these dynamics. And I've always kind of had a little challenge with the peace polls that say may peace prevail on earth, because I always feel like if it weren't already prevailing, we would be screwed a long time ago. And that when you look around and you look at the human family and the natural world, it actually is prevailing already, and has been all along. And I think it's very important to affirm that is the true state, and we're actually amplifying that state, and that's how we're bringing peace into the world. So thank you again, everybody, for being here. Adam, William, Nassim, Teresa, thank you guys so much. Much love to everybody.
Thank you, Marshall. And good luck with your book. We're so excited that it's starting to come into form.
Coming soon.
Yeah.
Yay.
All right. And William, some final words from you, William.
Certainly, thank you everybody for joining us, and for providing such profound, impactful questions. It's always a pleasure and a joy to get to explore such fascinating ideas, and especially to get perspective of Nassim Haramein, get some insight into these fascinating questions, because I think we all get to see them in a completely new way through that. Thank you as well, Adam, Marshall, Teresa, Nassim, for being on the call. I'd like to say, if anybody would like to delve in deeper or continue these kind of questions, these explorations, go to the Resonance Academy. We've got a lot of great content that we're always expanding on. There's some great courses from Robert Grant, Jamie Janover. I just had a course, the Big Questions course, which is looking at some big questions, some hard problems in science, and trying to piece it together into a single coherent description or perspective. So I definitely would invite everybody to continue on with us through the Residence Academy and our other venues. So thank you, and happy Equinox, everyone.
Thank you, William. We put some links. Jamie Janover's there in the background. He's been working on our Facebook Live side, and I can see he's here. He's posting some links for us. And William, I just want to say, when I came on your call, after your course was completed and listened to what the students had to say, I'm certainly excited to go back and do it. And what I heard over and over again is that they had an experience of the unified field as themselves as a result of what you shared with them. And so I really want to encourage people to check out William's course. It had a powerful impact on the people that you were with. So thanks for your work, William.
Thank you, Teresa, because that was certainly part of the intention, was to go from that unified field perspective and bring it all the way down to the biology and even your personal life, your consciousness. So
you did it. You did a great job. All right, Adam, lovely to have you. I think you just muted, so you want to unmute. Thanks for coming on and also initiating the connection to link our fall equinox with the World Peace broadcast. So I'm glad you created that bridge for us today.
Thank you. Like I said, it's a deep honor, and I'm just happy that we were able to get the broadcast going through and connecting to so many people. It's so important to me that this work gets out there into the world. And every time I go somewhere and I talk on any subject, I come back to unified physics as a key framework for people to explore and go forward into new information and new ideas. So as you go forward into this weekend, for all of you here on this broadcast, have fun and create and connect to the standing inherent peace of creation. By the way, Nassim, world peace is inherent to creation. Love that one. That one's going in the meme field. We're going to share that one some more. That was a quote. Grab that real good. But go forth and have fun with your community and experience that inherent peace that's part of creation. And go out tomorrow and do some radical acts of kindness. I mean, honestly, even if you just do one thing that you wouldn't normally do, go with a friend if you're embarrassed or scared, and just go do something that you know would massively affect somebody's life. If it happened to you, you were living on the street or you were in that elderly home and someone came and brought you, a bouquet of flowers out of nowhere because these things are really powerful, and please go and take acts to show that we are loving beings, that we are here and we can create more coherence in this world together. And stay tuned with us at Unify. Just go to unify.org. You can watch more of the World Peace broadcast. We have like Wesley Snipes coming in as a special guest, and like Cameron Diaz and Amma is going to be on the broadcast, and some others. So it's really beautiful.
Wow.
Of course, it's an honor to have this amazing faculty on the broadcast too. So, and we'll be sharing probably loops of some of this segment throughout the rest of the weekend as well, and featured parts. So join us. Let's have fun. Let's make peace. Let's be peace. Thank you all for being here with us.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, Adam. It's so great to see you again.
Thank you, brother.
So Nassim, how about you?
Sounds like I'm coming to Peru with you too. That's that I heard yesterday from Maura.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes.
Awesome.
Hey Nassim, before you do your final words, I brought Jamie Janover on. He was out there in the participants, and I just wanted to thank Jamie. He's been on Facebook Live posting links. He's been here posting links. He's on every single one of our calls and breakout groups, and thanks Jamie for that. And I just wanted to kind of bring your face in. And I know you probably have just a moment of love to share with everybody.
I have infinite moments of love because it's a hollow fractographic field. And so all the love is present in every point at all times. And thank you for reminding us of this, Nassim. And I can report from being out in the world that all that we're doing right now is happening exponentially all around the world. Everywhere I go, whenever I talk about this stuff, there's people just like us eager to push this envelope forward. So remember that we are not alone, and that we are the majority, and that we are in resonance with all this stuff. And so thanks you guys for carrying the torch, and I look forward to seeing you out there in the world. I'll be presenting in Montreal, in Nassim's hometown, for the first time on Sunday. And I'm going to be hooking up with Steve, who went with us to Egypt, and he's hosting me and helping me to get the word out to all of his peeps up there. So, you know, call out to all the Montreal folks. And then a week from Sunday, I'll be in Denver, Colorado, where I repeatedly do presentations and repeatedly have a full room of very excited people. And so it's been an honor to spread this information, and I really like seeing all of you guys on the call. And the vacuum is always with us, so may it continue to be so.
Thank you for all the work behind the scenes today. I really appreciate it very much. All right, now to you, Nassim. Any final words from you? And thank you for taking time out of your day, you know, every month for the students, and every quarter on these really fun public calls. They're just so much fun. I love them, and thank you so much for that.
Oh, my pleasure. And, you know, I'm so grateful to be part of this group. You guys are awesome. Yeah, I couldn't do it without you all. You know, this particular group that we have on the call, and of course, everybody out there listening. I'm, you know, honored and grateful and humbled to be part of such an amazing group of people. And, you know, I actually, you know, yesterday we had an off-site meeting with some of the board members, and there was a little video that was played that was remarkable, showing this a homemade video of this guy dancing to some music in some park, and there's other people there, and you know, the guy is dancing pretty intensely, pretty erratically. It looks pretty wild, and your first knee-jerk reaction is like, wow, what's this guy doing? And then, you know, and then one person joins and starts going wild, and then two, and then three, and then this movement happened, and like people are literally running to join the crowd, and it ends up with like maybe like 50 or 75 people and just going completely wild. And the point that was made by one of the board members was that, see, the person that started it, you know, was just doing his own thing, but the first person that went and danced with him, that's the person that needed a lot of courage, you know. And then the other one, and then the other one, and it, you know, that's like, so a movement is not just one leader pulling, but it's actually, you know, the courage of every member of the team making their contribution. And so, you know, this is how world peace happens. Yeah. So let's keep dancing, and let's get more and more people to join in.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you can see everybody on the screen here. We all love you so much, and we hope you'll come and play with us in the Academy if you're not already. And we'll see you all again soon. And let's do some random acts of kindness. I loved your ideas. I'm going to do mine. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Much love.
Aloha.
Bye.